ideas. Okay, the lotus feet of our spiritual master are the abode of pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great care and attention. My dear brothers, bye. It is through the grace of our spiritual master that we can cross over this material existence and attain Krishna. Make the teachings emanating from the lotus mouth of our spiritual master one with your heart, and don't desire anything else. It's an imperative. Certainly not that they are. We've adjusted it to say, may they make, but it's really make them. Attachment to his lotus feet is the best way to make spiritual advancement. His mercy fulfills all desires for spiritual perfection. Now, here's where it really gets interesting. He who has given us the gift of transcendental knowledge is our Lord, birth after birth. It is by his mercy that divine knowledge is revealed within our hearts, which divine knowledge bestows pure love for Krishna and destroys ignorance. It's not just that he's emanating pure love of God. The knowledge that he bestows by his mercy, the knowledge that he gives us by his mercy, or reveals, bestows pure love for Krishna and destroys ignorance. This is all checked by, I checked this with Bhakti True Swami many, many years ago. That old translation was there forever. Everyone memorized it back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s until I revised this in 98. That's why. It's hardwired. The great Vedic scriptures sing of his character. O spiritual master, O ocean of mercy and friend of the fallen, O universal teacher and life of all people, alas, alas, O master, please be merciful unto us and give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your glories now be proclaimed throughout the three worlds. So that was also a little bit tweaked because he wanted to make it general for Srila Prabhupada. Lokanath, Lokade Jivana. He's addressing his own spiritual master, Lokanath Goswami. That's why we sing Prabhupada Lokade. Lokade Jivana means the life of the world. Oh, Prabhupada, you're the life of the world, Lokanath. You understand? You think it would be hard to memorize? Now that we've memorized the other one. I don't think it would be so hard. But we discussed it, I think. At least we have we've got rid of the lying in front of the deities every day. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified. Is that really our only wish? It's an imperative. Make your only wish to have your consciousness purify the words. You understand? No, the Shikshastikam, the preferred translation is the one in the Ancha 20, the end of the Bible. But that's another thing. No, that's what he's saying. Nadanam, najanam, nasundari. Anyway, we'll discuss it later. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahamsa, Parudikacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavina Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabhinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Not irrevocable, irrevocable, irrevocable. And one note on verses such as this, there is almost always, in every case, there are 8 syllables per line for these little verses, like man manabhava man bhakta, most of the ones in the Gita. But occasionally there's an extra syllable. It makes it 9. And almost always that extra syllable is produced by the word bhagavata, as in this verse. What is it? Nashta Prayashabhadi Nityam Bhagav Nashta Prayashabhadi Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. 9. Interesting. Huh? Just a little fact you probably didn't know. Okay. On this 30th day of June 2019 in SanDiego, a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. Chapter 14, the story of King Vena. Text number 18. Yasya rashtre pure chaiva Bhagavan Yagyapurushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Janar Varnashraman Vitayi Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagyapurushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Janar Varnashraman Vitayi Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagyapurushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Janar Varnashraman Vitayi. Balayan. Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagyapurushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Janar Varnashraman Vitayi. Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Yajnavarnashaman Vitai. You ready, Damana? Can you see? Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Janai Varnashaman Vitai. Dhamaraj. Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Janai Varnashaman Vidai. Yasya Rashtre Pure Chaiva Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Ijjate Svena Dharmena Janai Varnashaman Vitai. Yasya, whose? Rashtre, in the state or kingdom. Pure, in the cities. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yagya Purushaha, who is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Ijjate is worship. Svena, their own. Dharmena, by occupation. Janai, by the people. Varna ashram, the system of 8 orders. Anvitai, who follow. Translation. So this is the Brahmins speaking to King Vena, the last time. The king is supposed to be pious. Actually, this is another little editing thing you have to watch for. When Prabhupada is supposed to be, it often just means said to be. The king is said to be pious, in whose state the cities, the general populaces, the king is said to be pious, in whose state and cities the general populace strictly observes the system of 8 orders of Varna and Ashram, and where all citizens engage in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their particular occupations. Please repeat. The king is said to be pious, in whose state and cities the general populace strictly observes the system of 8 orders of Varna and Ashram. Okay. And where all citizens engage in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their particular occupations. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The state's duty and the citizen's duty are very nicely explained in this verse. The activities of the government head or king, as well as the activities of the citizens, should be so directed that ultimately everyone engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The king or government head is supposed to be the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is therefore supposed to see that things go on nicely and that the citizens are situated in the scientific social order comprised of 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. In the Vishnu Puran, it is stated that unless people are educated or situated in the scientific social order comprised of 4 varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and 4 ashrams, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, society can never be considered real human society, nor can it make any advancement towards the ultimate goal of life. It is the duty of the government to see that things go on in terms of Varna and Ashram. As stated herein, Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the Yagya Purusha. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 5.29, bhoktaram yagyatapasam. Krishna is the ultimate purpose of all sacrifice. He is also the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Therefore, he is known as Yajna Purusha. The word Yajna Purusha indicates Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, or any personality of Godhead, in the category of Vishnu Tattva. Excuse me. In perfect human society, people are situated in the orders of Varna and Ashram and are engaged in worshipping Lord Vishnu by their respective activities. Every citizen engaged in an occupation renders service by the resultant actions of his activities. That is the perfection of life. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 1846, Yatak pravittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam svakarmanatamam vyarcha siddhim vinnati manava. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. Thus the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Shudras, and Vaishyas must execute their prescribed duties as these duties are stated in the Shastras. In this way, everyone can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. The king or government head has to see that the citizens are thus engaged. In other words, the state or the government must not deviate from its duty by declaring that the state is a secular one, which has no interest in whether or not the people advance in Varnashram Dharma. Today, people engaged in government service and people who rule over the citizens have no respect for the Varnashram Dharma. They complacently feel that the state is secular. In such a government, no one can be happy. The people must follow the Varnashram Dharma, and the king must see that they are following it nicely. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So we're getting some very good insight in here about how the state is supposed to be organized. Sometimes we forget that the Bhagavatam is such a vast and broad exposition of Bhagavat philosophy, which includes organization of society. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the father of all living entities, including the human beings, even in a Kali Yuga, who have strayed long ways away from Varnashram Dharma. So, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, Yadaya dahi dharma saglani bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajamyaham. When society becomes filled with adharma, there's dharma siglani, means discrepancies, and the people are suffering, then I come in order to protect the devotees, reinstitute dharma, and annihilate the miscreants. So this is a very important part of dharma. We're studying actually Bhagavat Dharma here. And these Brahmins are kind of laying it down the line to Vena, last chance. You know, he's completely incorrigible. He's not going to take their good instructions, but we can. So this is the actual duty of a king or any executive head, is to see that the populace is moving forward on the actual path of auspiciousness, which is getting free from the bondage of matter and moving toward returning home back to Godhead. So the Varna and Ashram system is perfectly created by Krishna in order to give everyone a place in society, both in the social orders and in the spiritual orders. And what is the whole purpose? Right at the beginning of Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, some of you may know this verse, you can chant along, Atak Pumbir Dvija Shrestha, Varnashrama Vibhagataha, Swanusitasya Dharmasa Sangsidhir Haritoshanam. This word Swanusitasya is actually a combination of two, Su Anushtitasya, which means very nicely practicing your duties in the Dharma. But the goal of it is to please Hari. If that center isn't there, then no matter how you may seem to be doing your duties nicely, it's a complete waste. And it's deviating from the plan of the Lord. So the duty of the state and the duty of the citizens, so both of them have duties, And Bandhu Maharaj would often point out that in the Vedic culture, there's much more an emphasis on duties than on privileges that come with being part of a certain society. Whereas today, everyone is trying to figure out what's in it for me. You know, when does my Social Security kick in? How can I get on the dole? You know, whatever. And various other things. In terms of duties to the state, people want to minimize them as much as possible. So, and it's kind of understandable because the state is so corrupt. When do you even think of things like this? You know, when does it even, I mean, unemployment becomes a problem, only because they see it as a, drain on the society, because people get unemployment insurance, and they know that without full employment, then the businesses aren't going nicely, whatever. But there's a constant effort to decrease employment. This is what capitalism is all about. If we can ship over the jobs that we had to pay $20 an hour. I remember when I first started being aware of these things back in the 60s, you'd hear about, the unions were very powerful. And you'd have these automotive workers, guys building cars, they'd make $25, $30 an hour back in the 60s. They were living upper middle class lives. They're like, But those jobs could easily be done over in China or Vietnam or even India for $5 an hour or less. And so when it became feasible to do that, basically because of the shipping and because of the electronics and communication, then they said, well, why not? But you see, it's totally self-defeating, because each company, whether they're building computers or they're building cars or they're making paint or whatever they're doing, if they can do it cheaper abroad, then they'll say, okay, we know this American economy is so wealthy and rich, we'll make it over in India real cheap, and then we'll sell it over here, we'll make so much more profit. The problem is when everybody does that, then nobody here has any money, because you've given all the jobs abroad, so they can't afford to buy the things, so the whole economy goes down. So the farthest thing from Varna and Ashram is the capitalist system. The capitalist system is basically built on greed. That's one of the gates leading to hell. Right? Remember the verse? Trivadham nadakasedham dwadam nashanamatnaha kama krodas tata lobhas tasmani tatrayam tajait. Krishna says at the end of the 16th chapter, after describing the demons, their characteristics, and their suffering due to punishment, that they go down, down, down to a hellish existence, or a hell. So that there's three gates leading to this hell. Lust, anger, and greed. The wise person gives them up, and what does he do in the next verse? He simply performs activities for his ultimate welfare and goes back to God. It retains happiness, and this is the alternative. So here we are in a society that is supposedly religious, but has no idea really what the duties of the government are. And so the government becomes more and more corrupt. Everybody's on the take. There's a revolving door between the congressmen and senators who appropriate the money to buy all these weapons, $760 billion a year. You realize how much money that is? How much waste that is? And what happens when their term is over, 2 years down the road, 6 years, 12 years, then they become executives in the very companies that they appropriated money to. You see the corruption there? Well, they spend some time, the time in government is just kind of their penance. Then they cash in, and so corruption is rampant. And the result is that people are suffering. You've got 60,000 people living on the street in Los Angeles. And it's proportionally it's worse in San Francisco. It hasn't become so bad here. These are extra people. They shipped all the jobs abroad. So without the Varna and the Ashram, society becomes an animalistic society. Completely animalistic. So how is this supposed to work? The king or government is meant to see that people are nicely engaged. in their orders, whatever it may be. Otherwise, it's not only bad for them, but for society in general. And you can see how things can easily break down. So this principle here, Prabhupada quotes several verses, Bhagavad Gita 5:29, the peace formula. All together. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantam richati. So how to attain peace both within yourself and in society? Well, everyone has to understand that the ultimate enjoyer of the activities is Krishna. Because he's the Yagya Purush, means that your life is supposed to be a sacrifice. Human life is meant to be sacrifice. Sacrifice your own sense gratification for the ultimate goal of life, for Krishna, and then become purified. So, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. Krishna says, those who recognize, who live a life in which they understand Krishna is the enjoyer of this yajnas and the sacrifice, because he's Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He's the supreme controller of all the planets and everything in the planets. But he's not just a taskmaster. That sounds kind of scary. I just got to work for God, work for God. No, Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He's the well-wishing friend eternally of every living being. And when we're nicely situated in the life of sacrifice, don't forget it says right in the 3rd chapter, text 9, that your work has to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, whatever work you're doing is binding you to this material world. So, when work is done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, even even eating, which is is as selfish a thing as you can think of, but no, it becomes a sacrifice when you cook it for Krishna and you offer it to Krishna. You recognize he's the first enjoyer, and then it becomes an exchange of love because he's giving me the remnants, rather than just I'm hungry, let me eat. That binds you to this world. So, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam. He's the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices, the enjoyer. And this word Yagya Purush, or Yagya Purusha. So, his name is even, Yagyartat Kamanon Natra. The word Yagya actually is another way of saying Vishnu. That's how integral is sacrifice in Vishnu. Yagya, so the actual enjoyer should be Vishnu or Krishna. And those who are in Varna and Ashram, now the ashrams, of course, is the spiritual orders, and one is meant to pass through those. And the Varnas are meant to organize society in such a way that it's led by the Brahmins, who are meant to be repositories of knowledge and possess these qualities that we discussed somewhat yesterday. Shamo, Namas, Tapak, Shaucham. Shama, control of the senses, control of the mind. This is the first thing in human civilization. Control of the senses, control of it. Tapak, austerity, and shaucham means cleanliness. Cleanliness is also an austerity, right? I mean, you hear, nightmarish stories. I mean, how, people don't take baths for weeks on end. I mean, I heard Mao Zedong never took a bath till he actually dived into the Yalu River. How can you can imagine the state of consciousness, how ignorant. I mean, if you don't bathe for one day, you're traveling or something, you feel, the first thing I want to do is take a bath, right? Because it brings your consciousness down in the mode of ignorance. But to not even have the understanding or the impetus to take a bath, it's scary. But that's part of the shaucham, is cleanliness, internally and externally. Shamo Dhamma Tapak Shaucham Kshantir. We discussed this one. I think it's forgiveness. Arjamam, simplicity. Simplicity. Just look at the modern world. Life becomes so complicated, right? I mean, you have to, for kids, with the phones, the fear of missing out. What are they saying about me? Isn't that part of the fear? You have to get on there. What are they saying about me? Do they like me? How many likes do I got? I don't know. I don't. But I think that it's crazy. You travel and everybody's got their face, on the plane. Everyone, as soon as they land, everyone's got their face in the phone. Yeah.
You'll be at Balboa Park and you see families that are clearly on vacation, and it's so
It's a tremendous entanglement. Once you get into that social media, you got to keep up, right? I mean, I don't. It's just insane. And now, everyone posts their pictures on there and their videos, right? Just a thing to do. That gives them the raw material for the deep fakes. So now they have commercially available software where they can put your face on anyone else and make you say whatever they want. I mean, you can imagine it with that. Better to stay off. That's a benefit. So now Vina is he's not going to take this instruction. What he's going to do is make the original characteristics of the demons, like the thing that really makes a demon, is that he claims to be God. That's the biggest thing, and that's exactly what Vina is going to do. So they're prescribed duties. This idea of prescribed duties. When you come in, if you're living in a temple, the first thing that happens is, there's prescribed duties, and actually that's great. It gives your day, it gives your life structure. When you know that these duties are being prescribed, ultimately for your own benefit. It's not that when people want to torture you and get up early and take a cold shower and do all these things. No, this is clearly beneficial, and you can experience the benefit of it. Regulates your life. You're pleasing to Krishna. You get to begin your day with an auspicious kirtan, and worshiping the spiritual master. The Mangal Arti is called Mangal Arti for a reason. It brings auspiciousness to be worshiping the Lord at that time. So all this life that Srila Prabhupada has given us, which is basically a substantial, but slimmed down, customized version of Vedic culture, but it's substantial. It can purify anyone if you surrender to it, if you accept the prescribed duties, And so that's what that Vedic culture is all built on. They're stated in the Shastras. Everyone can satisfy Vishnu, and the king or government has the responsibility to see that the citizens are so engaged. So that's true of any smaller unit, also. Any community or so forth. There's a head. There's maybe a board, whatever. But their main duty is to organize and see that everyone is following their duty, performing their duty for their ultimate benefit and for the benefit of everyone else. This is the idea. When you have a society where everyone is looking for the privileges, everyone is clawing against everyone else to see how much of the pie they can get, and people are being victimized. The big demons, they rise to the top, not the 1%, the 1/10, the 100th of 1% of the people. The whole idea is, well, how can we get more and more? And they organize the money system and the banking system and everything else so that it all flows upward. And what happens is the people are left stranded. Nobody has any savings. One medical emergency and they're on the street. A lot of people have jobs, but they can't afford an apartment, certainly not here, so they live in their cars, somehow or other. Can you imagine trying to raise a family in a car, It's just a nightmare. In America and throughout the world, this is what's going on. So it can't be sustained. It can't be sustained. Because the sense of exploiting others, which is demonic, it extends not only to human beings, but to other animals and nature as a whole. But nature always wins. The earth is finite. There's a careful balance created by Krishna, very, very complicated. And human beings are just stepping all over it and trashing the environment. Plastics everywhere. We're breathing it in now, these microplastics. This is a perfect example of the truth in the Bhagavatam that Prahlad Maharaj states in two places. Once in his teaching to his classmates, and again in his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. And that is that the apparent success in manipulating material nature to increase your pleasure or your safety, apparent safety, and get rid of the misery, ultimately produces worse than misery. Dukkha aushadam tadapi dukkam is one of my favorite lines. You've heard a million times. The aushadhi, the remedy for a certain misery, when it has no reference to Krishna consciousness, to bhakti, but is solely a material manipulation, produces worse misery. You know, plastics. There was a movie, and this is before I joined, where one guy is telling another guy, you know, about investments. One word, plastics. You know, invest in plastic. Well, plastic is everywhere now. You know, and not just everywhere. It's floating in the ocean too. There's a big bunch of plastic floating in the Pacific, as big as Texas, practically. So what is that doing to the careful balance of nature? How is Mother Nature reacting? Well, try global warming. The fires are already burning upstate. You know, Europe is burning. Record heat waves. You know, big hurricanes. One hit India. Was it India? Vayu. You know, you don't hear about it. Chennai has run out of water. That's 8 million people. There's not enough water. You can imagine what happened when they really want to. They'll be on the move. This is what's going to happen, and it's happening already. So this is a result of the executives having no knowledge of this, and even if they did, they wouldn't do this to try to organize Varnashram Dharma. So this is why Prabhupada said when he was 1977, when he amazingly in September of 1977 he tried to come to Gita Nagari, and he was saying, I've only completed half of my mission, I want to set up Varnashram, you know. Because the idea was that he has this burgeoning society and there's all of these devotees. Well, the families and so forth, they need to be plugged into Varnashram. That's the only way to really sustain the society. So that was his idea, but he never made it to Gita Nagari's health crisis. But in so many purports, especially here where it's stated, part of the statement in the verse, the king is said to be pious in whose state the cities and states and cities that in general populace strictly observes Varnashram. So where is that? Now when Prabhupada is talking here about the secular state, he's talking about India. This is one of the mottos when they set up the, when there was the Great Division, they got independence from Britain, you know. So now finally India for the Indians, now what are we going to do with it, you know? Well, they decided because of all the multiplicity of religions, you know, within India, that we can't have any one religion, you know, we can't force the Muslims to do this, you know, so we'll call it a secular state, you know. And that would be, you know, work is worship, that kind of thing came out too. But, so Prabhupada, he criticizes the secular state. Several times he mentions it here. They complacently feel that the state is secular. But that's disaster. The state can't be secular. That just means you give it over to the capitalists, to the demons. You know, the secular, that's what Vena is. He's secular. He's saying there's no God, or I'm God. That's demonic. So that's, Srila Prabhupada with his, following the Bhagavatam, Tad Bhagavasargo Janadaga Viplavo Yasmin Bhati Shlokam Avadnavadami. This verse was critical to his writing the Bhagavatam, because it says those words which are meant to bring about a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization, and which of course glorify Krishna at every step, even though imperfectly composed, even though every verse is improperly composed, that's what it says, are heard, sung, and chanted by those who are wise. So Prabhupada took encouragement, even though he knew his English wasn't perfect. He says, because it's wholly and solely glorifying the Lord, it will bring about a revolution. Somehow or other, Krishna will, give them the opportunity to. In other words, he had faith that it would work, and it did. That was his impetus for coming to America. He wouldn't have come if he hadn't had those books with him. So that's what this movement is, a revolution. We all experience the revolution in our own lives, transformation for the good, but it's meant to be carried out and actually transform society. Well, we can't see how that's going to work, but it's going to work by the holy name. The holy name is the power behind this movement, both in our own lives and socially. So just when we went out on Harinam there, people hadn't seen us in a while, And a lot of them are tourists. They just come once a year or whatever, you know. And so they're fascinated. What is this? You know, Hare Krishna. And there was one lady, she was really getting into it. I gave her that one of the little mantra things, you know. So that's how it works. One person at a time becomes fascinated, interested, purified, and eventually society as a whole can be saved. Otherwise, there's no hope. It's going down, you know. And I mean, even they know it, you know. You have to be really in denial to not see the danger of a, you know, an 8-year-old running the most powerful country in the world, and with his finger on the button, denying global warming, which is happening everywhere. Miami, you know, Miami Beach. I used to live in Miami Beach in the 80s. And we never even thought of what happens now. Now they have what is called it's clear skies flooding in the streets. Because the whole Miami Beach is like built on it's not built on solid rock. You know, it's like there's not a sandbar, but a kind of stone that's porous. I forget what it's called. So now, because the oceans are rising, and against our intuition, it rises a little more in different places. It's not like a big bathtub where everything rises together. So it's rising a little bit more in southern Florida, enough that it floods the streets, enough that they got to spend billions on raising the streets up a couple of feet. Can you imagine that? It comes up on high tide, you know, right? Pucker lights through, and then suddenly you're in the middle of a flood. The sun is out. That's what's going on. The first hint. So it's progressing, and it's increasing more and more, faster. As the Arctic melts, and now they're saying, oh my God, the Antarctic is melting. It's much bigger than the Arctic, you know, the Arctic. But then, how can you ignore that? It's just like a drug addict, you know. He's go into denial, you know, and then admit, oh, something has to be done, but I don't, you know, we don't have the strength to do it. And so everyone is, they're addicted. The one-tenth of 1%, addicted to that money, to that opulence, to that thing. They think, oh, yeah, we're going to build this underground bunker. We'll be saved, you know, which is completely crazy, no matter what happens, you know. So it's sick. So where's the sanity? The sanity is in the Hare Krishna movement. Living simply, you know, tapping into that source of enjoyment in your heart so you can live simply without burdening the earth. That's what Varnashram is. But it's a battle, you know. It's a battle ourselves. We're part of the army, trying to spread this Bhagavat Dharma. Okay, I'll read the verse once again. Just the English. The king is said to be pious, in whose state and cities the general populace strictly observes the system of 8 orders of Varna and Ashram, and where all citizens engage in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their particular operations. And there is a verse like that in Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada quotes, Yatak Bhaviti Bhutana. Any discussion? Questions? Comments? The mic is there, behind the drum. Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't that important, but what was that guy's name you said didn't bathe?
Mao Zedong.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the ruler.
The ruler.
Oh, really? Oh. I didn't catch the name. Okay.
You know, it's like a thing in the country. You just don't bathe, you know. Oh my God.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. You can imagine the
You're
consciousness.
saying for years he did? Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can read his biography. And you know, he's running a country with 1 billion people, you know. They had this cultural revolution.
And eventually he just died.
He died
naturally.
Yeah, he died naturally.
And then what happened?
I mean, I don't know if that's still a thing in China. If that's, you know, I mean, of course there are devotees there. I see. But I mean, you know, why do you think that France is known for the perfume industry? The women, they didn't want to stink so much, you know. So instead of bathing, it was like hard to bathe. They had this perfume coming. Insane. It's crazy. I mean,
It's translated as one of the substances as in the mode of ignorance in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam.
is what?
Cologne.
Oh, really?
Yeah, cologne and beer, and they're in the same category.
I can imagine, yeah. Okay, let's end on a high note. I'll give you some nectar verse. I was here's a phrase, Sanskrit I was sharing with Zach, just to show you. Now, first of all, there's this song to the six Goswamis, the one that Brigapati loves so much, he gives it out. If you go up there, I was up there. He gave me as has been meditation for many years. So in that song, it's the third verse. It says, Sri Gauranga Gunana Varnana Vadho Shraddha Samridhan Vito Papo Tapata Kuntano Tanubatam Govinda Ganamritai. So that Anandambuti Vardanaikatamano Kaivalya Nistariko Vande Rupa Sanatana. So first line says they're especially skilled and expert in glorifying Lord Gauranga, right? Sri Gauranga Gunana Varnana Vadho, describing his qualities. And they're filled with faith, Shraddha Samridhanvito. But the second line is the one I want to call your attention to. It says, Papo Tapa. Now what is Papo Tapa? It means the severe Uttapa sufferings coming from sin. Papo Tapa Nikuntano. They cut that off. They eliminate that. How? Govinda Ganamritai. By pouring down nectarian songs about Govinda. This is the writings of the Goswamis. So this is actually the substance of what we're reading. When you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavatam, where are these commentaries coming from? This is all it. But I was especially thinking today, I was just going through, when I was, we were going out to Harinam, it was Jamal was telling me about the Sanskrit effect. Have you ever heard of the Sanskrit effect? I'd heard about it, but I didn't know what it was many years ago. So he said, yeah, that memorizing Sanskrit apparently increases your intelligence or something. So he tried to Google it on his phone, but he couldn't get something. I did it this morning. So they're talking about, memorizing hundreds of thousands of words. You can imagine how many shlokas that is. These are like the South Indian Brahmins or something, where from childhood you're memorizing the Vedas, like Bhakti Siddhanta. But they're saying that act of memorization increases your intelligence. I mean, they measure that, they have 10 more ounces of brain substances, as those who do that. So I was just thinking of that. That's not going to be an impetus for me to memorize. It never was, that I'm going to increase my intelligence. But somehow I was inspired to go through some of the verses that I know. So Rupa Goswami, back to how he's pouring down all these nectarian vibrations that completely relieve you of misery. So one of them is this Lila Chanda, which is, Chanda verses are all unusual verses. None of them are like, Yatak Paviti Bhutanam. These are Anushtup verses. These are the common verses we mostly memorize. They're all special. They got some special meter or something, And this poem, they rhyme. He's rhymed the whole thing, Anyway, so there's one, this Lila Chanda is a review of Krishna's Vrindavan Lila in these Chanda verses. So the second set begins with description of the Uttana ceremony, where Mother Yashoda places him under the cart and he knocks over the cart, and then Trinavarta. And each one has a couple of verses. And they remind you of the pastime, and then you already are familiar with them from the Bhagavatam, and so the details come out, So third or fourth verse has this goes like this. And he's addressing, you see, this is all vocative. Just like the Hare Krishna mantras. You're just calling out to Krishna. There's a certain form. So he says, Navashishalila Langitahayana Garga Vishkrita Nama Nasayana Ringanamandita Nandanaketana Mononimatapata Gokula Chaitana. This is one of those Govinda Ganamritais that relieves you misery. So the first part says, after 1 year of these little tiny baby pastimes, which included killing Putana, the Shakatasura, the cart demon, and Trinavarta, then what happened? Gargamuni came. And he performed the name giving, and he gave all these names. And then this is the line, it's one of my favorite lines of all time. And I was giving it out a little bit. Ringanamanda Nandanaketa Mananimatapa Gokala Chaitana. So Ringana is crawling. Mandita means decorating. Nanda Niketana means Nanda's courtyard. So with his crawling, he's decorated and beautified Nanda's courtyard. Ringana Mandita Nanda Niketana. And Madhanima, with his sweet beauty and aspect, Madhanima Tarpata Gokala Chaitana. Gokala Chaitana means the minds and consciousness of all the residents of Gokula. And Tarpata means delights. So with everything about him, he delighted the consciousness. So Ringanamanda Nandanaketana Madhanima Tarpata Gokala Chaitana. Just that one line can give you so much mileage. Anyway, this is our legacy. Beginning with the Hare Krishna mantra, but expanding into all these other vibrations to engage your intelligence and allow you to, relish Krishna consciousness. So that's the high line, high point. And we need a poem, a whole beer. How does it start? For those who, how's it? Yeah. How blessed are they who fill their days. That's the last line. See, now my mind is going. Oh. Praise of Shri Yashoda's son. How blessed are they who fill their days with praise of Shri Yashoda's son. What they're saying is that they feel as if the raging blaze of Kali's days had never begun. How blessed are they who fill their days with praise of Shri Yashoda's son. So let's lead our blessed days. Always chant Hare Krishna. Read the books, share with each other, and share with everyone else. Make our life perfect. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.